Hey everybody, my name is Andy Baldacci. I'm the CEO of Sabersim, and I just wanted to present something really exciting to you today. And it is something that's been in the works for a very long time now, and it's the new version of Sabersim. We released the current version, honestly, a little over 2 years ago. And since then, we've just been collecting as much feedback as possible from you, from our subscribers, to see how we can improve. And there's been a lot of feature requests and a lot of things that we've already built into the current app. But as we got more into this, we realized that we had to rethink some things, and that some of this would require bigger changes. And we wanted to do this in a way that when we redesign things, it wasn't just going to be a facelift. We really wanted to focus on giving you more power, more control, and doing it in a way that makes things even easier to use. Because frankly, in the current version of SaberSim, there's a ton of power under the hood, but sometimes it works in a way that can be a little bit annoying. There's some friction that you're going to run into where things are just a bit of a pain in the ass. You have to play around with things to get it to work the way you want it to, and that is not what we want your experience to be. And so what we've done is behind the scenes been working for 6 to 9 months now, really, on this redesign to, again, give you all the functionality and control and power that you need in a package that's easy to use. And so let's just jump right into this. This right now is in beta. If you want to access it, you can head to beta.sabersim.com and just log in with your normal account information. The only thing I do ask, though, is that if you want to play around with this, please DM Sabersim Jordan in Slack so that he can add you to our beta feedback channel. Because again, we really want to do everything we can to make this the best product possible. And so all that we ask is that if you're going to play around with it, let us know what you think. And I'm not trying to say sugarcoat your feedback. Please don't. If you hate it, let us know. If there are things that don't work the way you expect them to, let us know. Whatever it is that you're running into, share that with us. So again, we can make this the best product possible. The plan right now is for the end of the month to release this, but I know that coincides with the start of NFL, and we don't want to change anything on you or force you to get used to some new app right when football's starting up. So we will leave the old app up so that you can choose whichever one you want to use for the time being. And we're not going to change that for at least the next few months. So don't worry about that. But I do want to stress, this is not reinventing the wheel. This is going to look very similar to the current Sabersim. It's going to be pretty easy for you to get up to speed. But again, just in case, you can still use that old one. So enough of me talking. Let me jump right into it. So I think the first thing you're going to notice is dark mode. This has been one of the most requested changes to the app, and we've got it for you here. The default is going to be dark mode, but if you prefer the old layout or the old colors, you can still go back to that very easily. I'm just going to walk through the screens. I'm going to try to do this relatively quickly, but if you have any questions at all, just shoot me an email at andy@sabersim.com or message us in Slack, and we're happy to answer any questions that you've got. But I'll do my best to hit on all of the key notes here. So one thing is just you're going to notice in the columns here, you can completely move these around however you want. You can actually go over here, edit the columns. If they're columns you just don't care about seeing, you can remove them, change the order, whatever it is that you want to make this yours and to make this have all the information that you need right at your fingertips there. A small feature that I think a lot of people are going to like is when changing team totals, you're able to do this in a batch now. But the bigger thing is that a lot of people will change multiple teams, and sometimes they want to undo those changes. And right now, again, this is one of the things that's just a bit of a pain in the ass. You have to go through and manually reset all of them. However, now you can, with this button, reset the games. If you make player adjustments, you can reset the players or reset both. And so I'll just reset the game projections. It just gives you a reminder like, hey, we're going to clear these out. And then just a couple of clicks, all those are cleared out. So this is just one of the small things that I think really add up to make this a more fluid process for you and a less frustrating process. You actually might have already noticed these games, obviously up top. I think it just makes more sense that way. We have two views, so you can have an expanded view. I'll probably use the expanded view when there's just a few games on the slate, but I'm going to default really to this compact view, which just shows everything at a glance. You can also go down here if you just want to look at the players, full screen, see everything right there, and just get right into the reviewing and editing the projections. You might have noticed this as well, show removed players. By default, if you make changes to your player pool, you're going to see those players still listed in this table. If you disable this, we'll hide all removed players from this view. The other thing that might have jumped out to you is this filtered number right here, this filtered tab. What we've done is our goal, again, has been to make this easier to use, but also to be more transparent on what's going on behind the scenes. So traditionally, Sabersim, we had in the new build settings window, we had a setting that said min projection, and that let you put in a projection. We had one set right there, and any of your player below that would be excluded for your pool. But it wasn't clear what we were doing because they were still showing up in the pool. And so what we've done is add these player pool filters where that's where the min projection setting is going to go. So everyone above 3 is going to be included in the pool. Everyone below that will be removed. And you can just see over in here who that actually took out and make some changes. But you can also do interesting things like include, let's just go games where points is going to be, the projected points is going to be more than 40 or more than 30. You could include players where the ownership is less than 25. You don't want any super chalky plays in there. There's a lot of things you can do right there to get that player pool quickly dialed in. And that's one of the big changes. But what I'm probably most excited for is these two columns right here, min and max exposure. This lets you set up front, if you know specifically, I want at least this percent of this player, or I don't want any more than that percent, you can set all that up front right here, and the builder will follow those instructions as close as we can. If you want to, if you do a lot of work in Excel and have your own formulas for setting min and max exposures, you can actually upload that for all the players in here. And again, our builder will get as mathematically close to those exposures as possible. That way, you don't have to go to do a test build, see who are high on who are high or low on, go back, adjust some projections, try to get it closer. You can still do that test build. We don't want you to make too many arbitrary decisions, but if you want more or less of someone, you can just directly tell us how much or how little of them you want, and we will give that to you. So again, this just adds to giving you more control over the process. Oh yeah, one other thing on the upload. We've got this apply to all slates checkbox. What that will do is if you upload, if you're on the main slate and you upload projections for everyone on that and check that box, we will then push those projections out to every other slate that those players are on. So if you're playing a bunch of showdowns, if you're playing some turbo slates, whatever it may be, just upload that file once and we'll push it out to all the slates with those players. I would recommend like looking for the all day slates, that kind of thing, to just do a single projection upload. Because like if you upload it a full projection file for a showdown, we're only going to push out those projections to for players who are on the slate that you're uploading for. So you want to find the slate with as many players as possible on it. That's something we're going to be improving down the road, but for now, that is how that works. Let's jump into the next step. This one, honestly, it looks pretty similar, but there's a couple of things that I want to point out. First is min uniques. This has been requested a ton of times, and actually, like, it was weirdly complicated to do. We probably about a little less than a year ago rewrote our entire optimizer. And by doing that, it allowed us to add this functionality, or at least made it easier for us to add that functionality. So in the redesign, you can set the number of unique players you want each lineup to have. You can also set the pool size. And this is going to be really helpful for a few cases. One, if you just want to have a large pool of lineups so you can quickly adjust exposures, put in a bigger pool there. If you're short on time and you just have a few minutes to go before lock, don't build a large pool. That way you can get your lineups faster, and we'll give you all that control right here. The last thing to point out is max exposure. this isn't a new setting, but it works now in a much more intuitive way. What it used to do is if you set a max exposure, we would say, okay, you set it at 70%. No player can be in more than 70% of the lineups in your pool. So if we're building you a pool of 1,000 lineups, that means no one player can be in more than 700 of them. But when we then filter that down to the 100 or however many you're actually playing, it's very likely that a few players are going to be clumped up there in those top lineups and be over that threshold. That's not what you wanted. It was very confusing, and we understand that. So what we've done now is whatever you set the max exposure to, that is what we will set the max exposure for every single player in your actual final selected lineup. So if we put that at 70, all the lineups that we get, our final lineups, no one player will be in more than 70% or more than 14 of those lineups. The second rule is everything else. It got like a facelift there, but not much really changed there. We do have some more planned down the road. But yeah, let's jump into this and see how things look. So we're getting this loaded. And I'm doing a build for DraftKings. So we do have to make a couple adjustments before the projections will unlock. So we've got that here. All right. So we got the lineups over here on the right. This screen is going to look very similar, but what we really try to do is just use the space better. So what you'll see is you can change this if you want to focus on the lineups more than on the exposures, or other way around. If you just want to get rid of this tab at all and just really focus on those lineups, you can collapse it by using that button and then bring it back up right here. This also is pretty cool. So we've got, you're probably familiar with the filters where you can say, all right, I want to see all lineups with Davante Adams. I click that, filter it. I want to see my lineups that have Davante Adams but don't have Aaron Rodgers. This is a new feature we added. So it's this negative magnifying glass. You can say, all right, like, do these ones make sense? Do I have a different stack that I'd rather get? Or if I have Davante Adams, do I only want to have him stacked with Aaron Rodgers? If that's the case, then I could just manually remove all these ones without Aaron Rodgers. But if I'm looking at them like, all right, these have some, basically they all have some New Orleans stacks. So it's not as though there's no stacks. These are just the one-offs with Davante Adams. But yeah, this is one of our main goals with this, is again, giving you that control, giving you that power. But we want to give you this strong foundation of high upside lineups so that you can go in and with some fine-tuned adjustments, really get them dialed in and really make them your own. You don't have to program hundreds of rules and settings and everything else to get good lineups. We're going to give you those good lineups out of the box and then give you the tools to adjust them and get them the way you ultimately want, so that you can spend your time, again, rather than programming in all sorts of rules and settings, really making the lineups your own, adding as much value to the process as you can, rather than just spending it on pointless busy work. So that's one of those big tools to help give you that extra control. One of the other things that we have done here is if you go to team stacks, used to be you would only see the stacks for your selected lineups. And if you wanted some KC, but you weren't getting them, it was, again, just a pain in the ass to do that. We're now showing you all of the possible stacks from the lineup pool, and we're going to make a change to this before we publicly release it, so that literally every team possible is shown here. So even if they're not in your pool, you will still see them. But for now, as long as they're in your pool, there's some lineup with a stack, they'll show up here so you can get, again, that extra control that you're looking for. And then just for smaller things, you can also customize, move around the tables here, the columns. You can reorder things or move columns, both for lineups and exposures. And that's the big change. The entry editor just got a little bit cleaned up. Same with the betting pages. But again, our focus was on much more than giving this a facelift. We really want to give you more functionality, make things easier to use. And I think we've done that, but we're not stopping here. Once we get this out, it's not as though we're just going to hit pause and there's no more new things coming. We have a lot planned in the works, but even on this, we have a lot more we want to do. So please check out beta.sabersim.com, give us your feedback, and let us know what you think. Before I completely say goodbye, though, I want to show one thing. So it's kind of hard to show this on the desktop, but we put an insane amount of work into making this usable on mobile. It looks kind of sloppy right now when we have this switch to Sabersim Classic link up here. That's going to get added to the menu, so just ignore that. But before, honestly, like Sabersim wasn't really usable on mobile. You could kind of do some things, but it just didn't work that well. With this new redesign, it is fully functional on mobile. And that's not to say that I would recommend doing mass multi-entry all from your phone, but you could. And what I really do plan to do, though, is do my builds on desktop. But once I have those builds in, I don't want to have to say locked into my laptop just to be waiting for injury news to do swaps. The entry editor, fully functional on mobile, that is going to make it really easy from your phone to make changes to all of your lineups quickly without having to pull up the laptop, without being locked to that screen. So you can sweat the games with your friends at the bar, wherever you want to be, and not, again, worry about having to lug around that laptop. I will put out some separate videos in the coming weeks showing what that mobile process looks like. But for now, again, head to beta.sabersim.com, play around with it, check it out, let us know what you think. But yeah, super excited to share all this with you today and to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much, and good luck this football season.